The Morning Dump from Hurrdat Sports with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Morning Dump time. The only place for extended thoughts that we can't get into on Coffee and Cream in the morning. And today was one of those days. Coming back from about a week and a half off, a good holiday break, a nice getaway for three of us. Because Shaner didn't actually have to work last week. DB and I did have to come in at least once last week. But a great holiday break for us, so we had a lot to get to.
Once last week for like
an hour.
72 hours. Way more than that. We did 72 hours worth of stuff.
Well,
3 days. Yeah.
Okay.
Come on now. Not that it was hard.
We did it. We probably put in 2 hours of work audio wise, but it turned into 72 hours worth of content.
There we go. That's
what we're about. I'm like scratching my back with my thumb right now. If anybody's watching on YouTube, I have an itchy back. Do you ever find yourself like looking at your fingernails and thinking, man, I got to trim these? Or are you a biter?
No.
I'm not a biter either.
I can't be around you like that. I'm just telling you, like, that's a pet peeve.
Biting nails?
Yes.
So I used to do this, and this was kind of like,
and those are exceptionally long for a guy.
I need to trim them, but they grow like weeds.
Not to be all toxic masculinity on you, but those, like, you couldn't guard me if we were playing pickup. I wouldn't let you.
No.
I'd be like, you get the next guy. You're not
go for a hike.
Scratch me.
Yeah. Well,
I have cuticle oil.
Do you ever like, does that bother you? Like if somebody were like clicking their fingernails?
No, but I will tell you, have you ever been around a scroller or a texter that taps the thing and it makes noise?
Oh, the boop, 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 boop.
No, this. And it's their nails.
Oh, I thought you actually meant like the sound effect. No, I've never been around somebody like that.
It drives me up
because most people I know text with their thumbs, and you don't ever like poke down with your fingernails. So you must be around a bunch of 40-year-old men and women that still poke with their fingers and won't have arthritis like me in 10 years.
Students that don't have any sense.
They poke around with their pointer finger.
It's so annoying.
Weird.
Hey, so I found this thing on my phone. And there's lots of apparently like being like on the outside in looking in as an Android guy. There's lots of GIFs or GIFs and memes about those people.
Tons.
Like I
make fun of you people all the time.
I see it on TikTok a ton, and people that mess up other people's conversations.
I hate that we text in green. I hate it. It drives me insane. Like you hate people biting their nails. I hate texting you in green.
Okay, so I almost, over the break, because I had the phone debacle.
Yeah, you almost had to get a new one.
Do you know why I didn't?
Because all of your stuff is on Android and you're used to using an Android?
No, I could figure it out probably. I only have 2 months of payments left on my phone before the credit goes to the next purchase. So I'll wait.
You'll wait 2 months to get an iPhone?
Yeah, because
let's go!
Because I pay an extra $12 a month in my plan to be able to get out of my phone year to year.
You're going to love having an iPhone too because it'll connect to your laptop. So
listen, I'm going to keep the expectation level down. People keep saying love. Oh, you'll love it. You can do that. Yeah, you'll love it. So I expect to like love. So I'm going to go ahead and not.
You'll like it? I said you'd love the pizza I got you too, and you did. So
hey, listen.
look at those eyes.
You know when I say listen, something serious is about to go, because that's kind of my mechanism for like.
You went down to like a lion about to approach prey. You were like, listen.
That pizza, for what pizza is in my heart for 48 years, which isn't super high on the spectrum, was unbelievable.
Rank it. If you had to rank it with every pizza that you've had.
There's only 2 pizzas I eat.
So it would be top 3.
Listen,
because
I Googled to see if they sent things online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see.
There's only two pizzas I eat, like where I would make a conscious effort to go buy,
and that's one of them.
That's gonna be one of them, and the other was Paisans. That's the only, and there's a lot of similarities. Not super doughy, not a ton of sauce. Like Vers made this deal where he knows the right proportions. I don't know if it's all cream cheese, all Alfredo, only a little bit of. I don't know what he does when he does my pizzas.
Does he own Paisans?
Yes.
I didn't know that. But every time you were like, hey, I'm going to Paisans to meet Vers, and I'm like, oh, I guess he's just like a regular.
No,
there.
he's the dude.
He's the guy there?
I mean, my man can flip a pie like nobody's business. Do you realize he told me something one time? And I don't
buy
know.
your own T-shirt?
Now, and he's going to be a pallbearer at my funeral, so like we're that close.
Mm-hmm. He's a strong dude, so that's good.
He told me because it's the labor market is very, very hard. And so he's going through all these things about staffing and I was like, man, I'll help you. You know, like seriously, especially when I'm not in season. Like I feel like I have more ways to be productive. I don't have anything to really do until I get the kids at like 3:30. So like if you wanted me to come in from like 12 to or 11:30 to 2:45 or something, like I would do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just help. And he goes, man, I would actually think about that, but it would probably drive you crazy because it would take you about a month to learn the process.
And you're like, I'm a foodie fanatic.
I'm like, wait a minute.
No way.
What in the world would take me a month? Well, I was offended, right? And he just said it super casual. Like he wasn't like making fun of me or anything. He's like, hey, it'd take you about a month. Get out of here, man. It'd
take me 5 months to learn.
Listen,
how to do pizza.
I think I'm pretty okay in terms of aptitude, and it's muscle memory, and it's manual labor, so I think I can get it. I made the mistake of watching this dude one day. Not a chance. I don't even know if I could get it in a month. He can do these things with dough and pad and spin and stretch and move these things down the assembly line. It gave me the sweats just watching.
But it also
and I was like,
probably instilled so much appreciation.
Yeah, totally. I was like, you know what? It may actually take me a month. But I remember when he said it, I was like,
and you're like, man, do you know me at all?
Dude, get out of here. Like, do you realize I had to learn the West Coast offense in Charlotte. That took me 2 months. Like, I'm pretty sure I could make a pizza in a month.
If you went there, it might not take you a month. It
would take me a month.
Well, no, I'm saying if the shift was maybe longer, instead of being from like 11:30 to like 2:45, like if you did like an 8-hour shift,
dude, that
for a couple weeks. So you might be able to get it in a couple weeks.
Do you know how delicate dough is?
Yes, because I screwed it up.
And he has these pie screens, and you do this size for this screen because the dough is only supposed to be this thick, and you're like moving it down the line and how to do the little thing. I'm like, yeah, it'd probably take me.
Maybe that's a New Year's resolution.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the land, the plane. That pizza was unreal.
How about it? So Emo's Pizza, for those that don't know out there, is an only St. Louis pizza.
God, it was fire.
St. Louis style pizza, and the uniqueness of it is not just the crust, because it's a very thin crust.
It actually reminded me of lavash.
Never had it.
So lavash is like a thin cracker crust.
Okay, which
very
I love.
thin. It. Have you ever had like wafer crackers, like water? Yeah, that's what it's kind of like.
Yep. And it's not the sauce either. It's the cheese. And you even said something about the cheese.
And I didn't even know. I said, do you know what it is about that pizza? I said, the cheese is amazing.
And so the cheese is Provel cheese, which I should know this by heart by now, but it's provolone, mozzarella, and Swiss, I believe. And it's just a combination of those three cheeses.
I thought and I'm cheese. I told you I put cheese on everything, right? Chinese.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. It's cheddar, Swiss, and provolone.
I knew there was cheddar in there because do you know how I know? Because of how it browns.
Mm-hmm.
Yellow cheese turns darker quicker than.
It just gives you like a gooey, cheesy vibe.
It is. They used Micah, my 12-year-old. He goes, I've never seen whole strips of bacon on a pizza before.
How about that? That's why I love it. And when I make pizza now, I put full strips on there.
That sounds awesome.
Well, see, do you know why I never have? Because I think when you bite it, I even like when I do their crunch wraps and stuff, I don't do like pieces of bacon. I cut it, not because I'm trying to preserve. It's because I don't want to pull out a full piece of bacon when you bite it. But that's not an issue.
No, because when you cut, and I don't know how did you cut the pizza? Did you cut it in squares?
No.
So that's how you're supposed to cut
I saw it on the box.
Right.
It said it has some slogan about.
What's the square beyond compare?
That's it.
Mhm.
See, I pay attention.
It's the
right?
square beyond compare.
So you have to be impressed. I just didn't eat the pizza. Like
Right.
I wanted to know like what the thing was. But I didn't do that.
Right.
And maybe I should, but
And for those that don't know, that was my gift to DB when I came back from vacation.
I don't like the little quarter moon piece of pizza.
Oh, I know what you're talking about in the corner. Yep,
Yeah.
right.
I don't eat corner cinnamon rolls. I don't eat
You only eat the one in the middle.
I don't eat the corner piece of the egg casserole.
Right. Yeah, because this is what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, I didn't do it like that.
And that's how I cut my Emo's pizzas too.
And we have a pizza cutter too, and it's super sharp.
Mhm.
It's like I was like, whoa.
And Dave,
and I almost never use it because I'm not what I call a pizza guy.
I don't know if you're a pizza review guy. The Barstool Dave.
I don't know
Portman
enough.
Pizza review. But he did St. Louis whenever Boston was playing St. Louis in the Stanley Cup Finals, and he hated it, and I loved that he hated it because it is so unique to the area that he's so used to these big slices
Boston
of
pies.
pizza and Boston pies that you come to St. Louis and you see this and you're like, what is this?
It was perfect for me. A lot of meat, a lot of cheese, very little.
And the sausage chunks on there too are massive.
They were real.
Yeah.
That's how I would break up breakfast sausage.
Mhm.
I'm telling you, like that's why I love Pisons, because it's not too much crust, it's not too saucy, and it's about the toppings.
I'm gonna have to get. Maybe I'll go to Pisons today.
Listen, it's not as thin, but you'll see that there's some similarities.
We're going to Omaha Tap House tonight for
great
a
burgers.
congratulatory date, a double date with some of our friends in town.
Get the jalapeno cheese curds,
Really?
or one of the burgers.
Well, maybe both, because I'm assuming the cheese curds are an app.
Yeah, so they have a couple of different cheese curds. They have the regular and then the jalapeno.
Okay.
I just sent 2 of our players. They came over after the barber one day. I like hanging out with my guys in high school, so they were just over at the house. And
you would be the perfect candidate for somebody that if they were like, hey, we have to localize 21 Jump Street, DB, you're going to be the guy that goes back to high school.
Well, it's like when you came over, like I wanted to make sure that you were taking, like, hey, are you hungry? Do you want to eat?
You made me gumbo.
Yeah, that was fresh off the press.
Woo, that was fire.
Dude, that's like I'm
Ashley's like, can I have some? I'm like, no.
Well, you did warn her though. You're like, hey, you don't really like spice.
Yeah. And it had a good kick to it.
So do you know what that was? That was the crab boil. It's a deal called crab boil.
Okay.
And a little bit of cayenne. But it's not so the crab boil like kind of enhances the spice, and I didn't know that because my mom is from Houston. She taught me everything about Cajun and Creole cooking. They are 2 different things, but we kind of the gumbo, the jambalaya, how to do my shrimp. Like she's a fantastic cook. And as she's gotten older, she's doesn't like as much spice.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember tapping down the spices, but I forgot about the crab boil. And she's like, oh, it's so good. The color, like I do my roux. I like, you know what roux is? It's
yeah.
So I found a recipe where you can do roux in the oven. 4 teaspoons of oil, a cup of flour.
No way.
You put it in the oven. You stir it every 20 minutes on 325 until you get the color you like. So it won't be any more than like an hour 20. You just start it ahead of time. I set Alexa to stir every 20 minutes. It's fantastic. It doesn't stink up your house. It doesn't take the patience to like do it over the pot. Because it's like risotto. Like you're like stirring for 40 minutes and you're like, oh my god.
Risotto's hard too to make.
You have to have patience.
Yeah.
Right. And it's
like
always
fishing.
funny. I watch Chopped and I see people try to do risotto and I'm like, why?
How do you have in that hour time slot?
Dude, it's like 25 minutes for the entree and you're like, oh, I'll do risotto. Although I did watch a guy bake a cake last night and I was like, okay.
I have a lot of appreciation for members of that show too. Because
the Morning Dump brought to you by Food Network.
Yeah, under pressure, these guys are insane. These guys and gals are insane.
That's different.
And the way that they're able to combat, when things go wrong, and they're just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I have a minute and a half to make this, and they somehow find a way to not make it perfect.
That's one of my favorite
do
shows. I used to watch Beat Bobby Flay, but not enough people were winning, so I stopped watching it. But I do love the food channel. And Chopped is great because I've learned how to do like.
And you know me, I'm a Gordon Ramsay guy.
Hey, Micah, you and Micah. I think he likes the way he talks to people because that's.
I do too, because I know I'm never going to be that guy.
Yeah, I think you guys.
I am not a Richard.
Yeah.
Well, I can be, but not like Gordon Ramsay.
Oh, so he that's my little chef.
Micah?
Oh yeah.
I feel like Zoe is somebody that would be a really good baker someday.
Zoe will she will push herself from the table, remove herself from the table, get down off her stool, two-hand her dishes to the sink, scrape them off, and put them in the dishwasher.
And Zoe is
4.
4.
Yeah, but you saw her. Like,
yeah.
She's a different
Zoe
4.
is 12.
She's a different 4.
Hey,
which is good.
You know, as we transition to the other fun part of Morning Dump,
sports,
I wanted to talk about our poll question today because it was very basic. It was, are you a fan of New Year's resolutions? And I said yes. If you did, I say, are you a fan or do you participate? Now I'm going to go back and double check. It said, do you believe? I'm sorry, is what I put in New Year's resolutions. I said yes, and drop your goals below, or no, and explain why below. And I'll tell you what, DB, I am not a fan of New Year's resolutions. And here's
I don't know
why.
if we can be boys.
So 66.1% of people said no. And Amy did. She was the only person, or one of 3 people that actually dropped Y below. But 33.9% of people said yes. And here's why I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. It's because I don't think people stick with it. And also, why do you need the new year to decide for you to change something for the better? Because more oftentimes than not, it involves working out, right?
Well,
everybody's like, hey, I'm going to work out.
I bet you're a lot of fun at parties.
I'm going to work
Mr.
out
Pragmatic
3-5
over
days,
here.
And I'm telling you, it doesn't take January 1 to turn around your life in some way, shape, or form.
Well, sometimes people just need a starting point for motivation.
And I'm with you there.
Maybe that's all.
Because during Lent, that actually was a big thing for me. Instead of
Lent
giving
lasts,
up
what, a
something,
month?
40 days.
40 days.
Yeah.
I should understand that, although that is not. I'm not Catholic.
That's fine. Yeah.
So
there's 40 because Jesus spent 40 days in the desert without food or water.
I get the story. Yeah.
So you're thinking that you're just making you're thinking you're just making a goal just to make a goal, just because it's the new year. I got to do this.
Well, no, it's not that. It's the fact that people think that if they were 6 days until the new year, and they're like, "Hey, I'm going to work out at the start of the new year." Well, why didn't you just start working out tomorrow if you know you're going to start doing that? Like, why are you waiting until a certain starting point? You should just be able to start whenever. That's why I don't agree or believe in New Year's resolutions. Now, but I get it. I get where you're coming from with somebody needs a starting point, because I waited last year until Lent to go do CrossFit for 8 months straight. But the reason I did it for as long as I did, because it bettered my mental health and the position I was in, but it also was timely because I had bounced out of a relationship, one that was long-term for 5 years at that time. So, change can begin any day. And Amy said that too here. Don't limit yourself to January 1 next month or Monday. Now, other people said we should all be.
But what if you're doing it just because it's an opportunity to? It's not just exclusive or allotted to. Like, what if you do that in addition to, but New Year's gives you another chance to
start something new?
A note to start something new.
Because just people don't do that. Like, the majority of people are only waiting for New Year's for that one thing.
Dang, Denny Downer.
I'm not trying to be. It's just kind of, it's honest, right? I mean, there aren't a lot of people that I know that follow through with New Year's resolutions.
But people also like to back Damon up here. People also like to, if they do make a some sort of a goal lifestyle change, they like to use New Year's as a day that they can remember that they did that real easily. So beginning in 2023, I started working out. I mean, and they can remember that for like
I'll tell you what,
5 years down the road.
If you were 200 pounds overweight and you started June 15th, you'd remember June 15th forever if you got down to the weight that you wanted
so
to be.
maybe it's like, and this is off the cuff, so I'm going to blow it, but like, are all squares rectangles, all rectangles squares, whatever, they all have four sides. Like for resolutions or times to start something, New Year's Day can just be a part of something that you ordinarily do. It doesn't have to be limited to just that time. So let's say I want to start in March, or hey, you know what? Right after St. Patrick's Day, this is my last Guinness. That could be, you may start that in January and say, you know what? I need a starting point. Like,
how many people stick to that?
That I don't know. That I don't know.
I bet if we looked up numbers, it would be less than 20%.
Who's admitting that, though?
I think a lot of people in today's world admit, like, hey, I didn't stick to my New Year's resolution. I wish I could, but I wanted to drink again.
But isn't that fad diets or working out in general? Mm-hmm. Like, if it's not a complete lifestyle,
right? So that's why I'm saying New Year's resolutions are kind of invalid.
But what if it's not just working out? What if it's not using swear words? What if it's one less tequila?
Do that February 8th. Don't use swear words, right? Like, everything has a starting point, but I don't think you need New Year's to have that starting point.
It could just be an indicator, though. It brings attention to, okay, hey, now's a good time.
Yeah.
As opposed to somebody standing over you and saying, hey, do it now. I get it.
I'm just on the page.
But not really.
I'm just on the page of, you have 364 other days to start something new. Why wait for that indicator when you can make your own indicator, like Shane was kind of saying? You need that, that feeling of, hey, I remember this day because of this.
Right.
So, but it presents a good conversation too, because I think more people probably lean that New Year's resolutions are a hoax, but there are some people that are like, no, it's really beneficial for me.
I would try to make the counter argument, or in addition to that, regardless of what time of year you start something, the same kind of person is less apt to follow through as the person that is. I think there are similarities regardless of what time of year it is. You know what? It's just that New Year's resolutions make it easier for everybody to have a starting point.
It does, but you brought up a great point there. Is the people that start for New Year's resolutions probably don't follow through as the guy that started on April 14th. That's a great point.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I'm with you there 100%, because if you have the mindset to start it when you think it, opposed to, hey, I'm going to start it a month later when New Year's is actually a thing, you're more likely to stick to it because you are mentally there.
I think it's in the personality. And because so many people have New Year's resolutions, your pool for failure is bigger. You don't know the person that started on April or in March or in February, but because the pool is so great for a resolution, the stats are skewed.
Right. I think a lot of people make resolutions too because that's just the thing to do.
And maybe they use
I didn't make a New Year's resolution this year. Yeah. I mean, I bought a house. I got engaged. Like, I did all those things on my timeline. I didn't need a New Year's resolution to do certain things. Like, I didn't say, hey, in 2023, I am going to buy something that appreciates. So I got a car when I wanted to get a car. I bought a house when I wanted to buy a house. And also when it, fits. Like, you can't just say, like, hey, I'm going to buy a house this year and not have the funds to buy a house.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Maybe some people use that day, as in January 1st, to make New Year's resolutions or whatever, if it's on the 31st or whatever. But they use that day to kind of plan for it if it is something of a purchase like that. Or if I'm going to start working out, and it's Thanksgiving, that gives me 30 days to figure out how to work out, where to work out, where I need to go to, how to pay for it. Am I going to buy stuff?
Hey,
at home?
When you made the decision to stop smoking, was it a particular day, or you just got up and said, I feel like it?
buddy of mine probably had died from it. So then right after that, I just stopped.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah. So I just stopped.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, that's enough. Done with that.
Isn't it amazing how, like I was talking about our mutual friend who covered the crash in Albuquerque that involved alcohol, who went from drinking Hurricanes and Alabama Slammas and Hennessy and whatever to, yep, I'm good.
Yeah.
Right? And what I was trying to make the case for,
I feel like life experience, though, does that to you.
So, which is why I was so passionate about what was going on last night during Monday Night Football, because that, I'm telling you, is going to change a few of those players' lives.
I'll tell you too,
CPR and not seeing people breathing is a game changer in an innocuous a seemingly harmless collision. Helmet to chest, you see it 100 times a game. It's going to change the way people can function.
Have you ever ridden or driven a motorcycle?
No, I am full disclosure, I am closer to afraid than not of motorizing two wheels.
So the reason I bring up this point is I have 3 reasons why I've never hopped on a motorcycle. One, when I was in grade school, it was like 3rd or 4th grade. Field day was a thing in St. Louis.
Yeah, we have field day.
Is it field day? Okay, yeah. Here. So in May, to end the year, you have field day in grade school. We were all standing out by the main road, just a normal 2-lane road. You don't go faster than 30 on the road, but we were telling people to honk their horns. Like, as a bunch of students out there, like cars going by, honk the horn, honk the horn. Now, when you have field day, though, you see a lot of, blow-ups, or you see just a lot of commotion in the parking lot next to the school. So a lot of people tend to, because they're nosy, slow down. And we told a motorcyclist to honk his horn. He looked over at us, honked his horn, didn't realize that the car in front of him slowed down because they wanted to look at everything and impede traffic. He spins to try to avoid the car and scrapes and goes about 25 yards. His whole left arm was gashed up and bloody. Story 1. My uncle told me another story about 2 or 3 of his friends died in motorcycle accidents. And my third leg to this point of my story is there was a friend of mine that I met in Sioux City. She was a news anchor, really good, really talented, a free-flowing spirit, moved to Florida for a job, hopped on one of her boyfriend's motorcycles. They got in a car accident and died at the age of like 25. I can't remember how old Jenny was, but 3 reasons right there why I'll never hop on a motorcycle. And I only need one of those. I don't need 3. So it just, you mentioned, similar things like that. And that's why, I don't need to be a daredevil in that way.
It's just, I think, and we're pretty dismissive because there's this tendency to say, oh, that's just what they do. They're inherent risks. It's a violent sport. And I'm telling you, yes, that's true. Last night was different. And unless you've been out there or spent that much time with somebody or somebody's, and it's ingrained of that brotherhood and being other-centered, which is what total team things are. Like, it's funny. Like, we're always quick to comment on what people should do in sports, and we have all these critiques and criticism. And there are very few of us out there that could cheer for the guy next to him that is doing a job that I want to do, which is what happens in locker rooms. That guy is potentially playing a position that I would like to be playing.
But I'm the backup.
But I'm the backup, and it still is as valuable. Like, we can't even get our mind around that, right? But we have all these opinions on how there's only 22 guys that start.
Yeah.
Right? You have 8 receivers on your roster, only 4 on the field at a time at most, maybe 5. And while those guys know that they could play, I'm sure that those guys want to be playing more. But I'm still for you. I'm still for you. Or to go to to compete against somebody every day in a physical manner, and then turn around and not have that have carryover. Football's. I'm not just saying it because I played it. I'm saying just remove personal opinion aside and just imagine doing that every day and thriving in that environment.
You know what I was having a hard time settling with too yesterday was the fact that his mom was in the seats, saw her son fall flat on his back, saw CPR being performed, her having to go in the ambulance, go to the hospital. And it had me thinking from a parental perspective, and I didn't even get your take on this on the show, and I'm kind of happy that it got brought up right now. But from a parental perspective, you're somebody that not only loves the game, but teaches the game and has kids that play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Did you at any point put yourself in her shoes?
Yeah, listen, do you know why? And I don't even like talking about this. And it was minor, relatively speaking. Up to that point, the biggest game of the season. Right? West Side, Bellevue West.
Mm-hmm.
My kid's a decent player. I'm coaching 80 other kids. Couple plays before, big hit on a tight end, causes a fumble. Hey, we're off and rolling. 3 plays later on a fluky catch, he's hurt. So you go out on the field, and I could tell he's disoriented a little. And he's kind of whimpering, but I don't know what's wrong. Still in the moment, okay? I know I'm going to have to coach here in a little bit. They take him back in the tent. I'm continuing to coach. We're trying to run our defense, whatever. I waited.
Mm-hmm.
Offense gets the ball. Pull my headsets off. I had to wait, Mo. Right? I had to wait to go see what was wrong with him because we punted right after that, or not for a couple plays after that. So I had to wait to go back to see him. And it's the first time in I don't know how many years that he actually was kind of crying a little bit, and he said, "Why is this happening to me?"
No.
And I'm just in that moment, I'm like it did something to me. And I remember last week, Micah was saying, I think I told you this. He's like, "Oh, Dad, you've been kind of crying a lot lately. You've been in your feelings." But it's a tough time of the year, right? Because I lost my brother unexpectedly
right.
A couple of days after Christmas a few years ago. And there's a lot going on, right? And he's like, "I remember you crying over Caleb." And I'm like, Micah, the balance of being a parent, coaching, knowing that you're doing something that's inherently dangerous and managing all those emotions in the fly, at some point you'll learn to appreciate, right? Because that's what I thought of. Because I don't even know the rest of that game. I know the final score, but the rest of that game, fudge, I don't.
Does that ever make you feel like you seeing something like this happen to DeMar, seeing injuries happen all the time?
Some guilt.
Does that ever? Well, I'm not even talking about just guilt here. Does that ever make you feel want to just pull him out of the sport completely? Because this is something that you lived, and so as a parent, though, I'm just thinking parental here. Take your love of the game out of it. If you're looking at the safety of your kid and you see all this stuff happening with the sport that they love too, because that's something that my parents never let me do because they saw injuries happen with their own family members that led to them not letting me play football.
Great question. Let's just be honest, right? We're on the truth serum. Once upon a time, yes. I always kind of was going to be okay if he chose basketball. Because once upon a time, he was a better basketball player than he was football player. It wasn't until probably 9th grade where it's like, oh boy, he could probably be pretty good at it. And he was good, don't get me wrong, but he was way good at basketball. And I saw the joy. It started to finally kind of, he went from just something to do to knowing hey, I could go to school for this. And so up until that point, I was always like, oh man, you know what? If he decides to play basketball, That's cool. Like, just want to see him compete and whatever. And it wasn't until, hey, Shane, Jacob's at the door. It wasn't until I saw him have real joy doing it that I was okay that if that's what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. You know, you mentioned that, and
that's full. That's like
just from Caleb's point of view here. I mean, we're talking about Caleb, obviously. I at one point in my career thought the same thing because baseball was always my best sport.
Mine too,
and it was my favorite sport. But then I got really good at basketball, and that became my favorite sport. So I understand like the swing of emotion there. But then I went back to baseball when I was planning for college because I just ultimately that's what I fell in love with again. So there's always that change in the waves. And my parents always let me choose what I wanted to play. They just said, you can't play football.
Like from
day one,
really?
Because I had two uncles in a wheelchair, great uncles, excuse me. And another one has had multiple knee replacements. But what I told them was, Mom, these guys were linemen. Like for me, I'm built like a twig. So there's no way I'm playing anything but safety or wide receiver. That's it. I mean, maybe quarterback if I could throw the ball and put some meat on my bones, but still I couldn't do that.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I coach with one of the greatest people that I know, one of the best coaches that I know. Coach Freund has a brother that is in a wheelchair due to playing football. And he managed to coach and thrive and teach a sport, knowing that was part of the game. And quietly, I've never told him how much confidence that instilled in me to continue to push my kids to do something like that, because it takes such quiet strength and resiliency. And it's tough.
You ask me if I would let my kids play football someday. I don't know, because I grew up on not being allowed to play. I see all the injuries like this, but I also see the fun and the brotherhood and the mental toughness that is instilled in these young kids by just covering them. Like I remember going to high school football games on Friday nights as a student and almost wishing I was playing. I loved being in the student section, but almost wishing I was playing. Then I go to cover high school football games every Friday night for the last 3 years. And I'm watching these kids play, and I'm like, I could easily see my son playing this game someday.
And remember,
it's a great game.
It goes back on it. Everything goes back to safety. And I just, CTE is a big problem in the sport.
It's a great game.
And, it's where do you find that balance?
And remember, as you just said, safety is getting better, and it's getting better in not only football, all the way around through NASCAR,
although targeting seemed to be a non-thing in bowl games this year.
Well, yeah.
Boy, they're going to have to revisit that, aren't they? It's unbelievable.
I tweeted this out, and I don't know if anybody saw this, but I said targeting needs to be disbanded until somebody can come up with a consensus of what it actually is.
I don't think you can do that, but I get the outcry, though.
Right. Well, and the reason I say that is because what is the rule? I'm listening to a rules analyst talk about it and say that's targeting, and then I see officials on the field say it's not targeting because they went and talked to other people. How does one official or rules analyst think it is and one doesn't? I know there's divide there, but it's a rule. Like a rule should just be known. And if one guy says it is, the other guy should also say it is. It should not be 50-50.
It caused a ton of consternation on social media and with media over the last 2 weeks. It seems to be, it's a huge issue.
That USC Tulane game, those guys were lifeless on the field. Lifeless. True helmet to helmet was there. You know what? Are we talking about, did he jump and like leave his feet? Did he hit with the crown of the helmet?
What defenseless was?
And he was obviously not defenseless because he was, he made a football move, but he still got hit in the head. How about we just say any hit in the head is the issue? But then
it's too hard to come up with those rules on the fly,
then,
but I get it.
I just don't know. I just don't understand how the play in TCU Michigan wasn't called, the play in Georgia Ohio State wasn't called, and the play in Tulane USC wasn't called. Like all three of those, in my opinion, were targeted.
Yet Arkansas and Kansas, which was his shoulder on the football, gets called and almost decided played a key role in the game.
It's got to be revisited.
I mean, KU gets that 2-point conversion. All of a sudden, we're having a different conversation.
Hey, speaking of college football, before we wrap this thing up, we have been having a little fun choosing bowl games since the start on December 16th. And, I kind of gave it to DB early on because I was winning by 1. And you know what? Rightfully so. Because
I was in last place.
Yeah, DB was in last place, and I had to drill him for it. But then quickly the tides turned, just like Tulane and the Green Wave came back on USC. That was DB against Shaner and I. And let's just say, Shaner, we got our butts whooped 26 out of 42 in favor of DB. That's good for 62% of the games correct. We still don't know if that's a great record, but
I don't know if it is. Is it a good record?
Well, Shaner and I are 50%, so you have a better record than us. Shane, we're tied right now, believe it or not, with 21. So here's what it comes down to, because we both have Georgia as our winner. Whoever predicts closest to the total score between the two does not have to buy breakfast. So you choose a number, I choose a number.
What do you think the score will be? Take that total, Shane.
So if you think it's going to be 20-19, you say 39.
Don't say that.
Can we come back to this? Can I tell you tomorrow?
No, we need it now.
We got work to do.
Oh my gosh.
We need it now.
You guys are sabotaging me, Andrew.
Sabotage?
Yes. Playoffs? He got it. Okay. Why do I have to go first?
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
73.
You think that's going to be the total?
Mm-hmm.
He's going 43-30 Georgia.
I actually was going 42-31 Georgia.
And you had to go first, didn't you? Because that's what I wanted.
You asked if I would go first. Come on.
I'm glad this is a podcast because we can go on forever.
Hit me with it. Come on, Shane.
All right. How about
26? All right.
Wow. What's the
I don't know.
What's
We're not
Vegas
looking that up.
What's Vegas saying?
Just give me a prediction.
Shane, this is a $13 decision, so that's how much my breakfast is going to cost.
Yeah. 72.
What?
Wow.
72.
Boxed himself in.
I
So
know.
anything less than 73, he wins.
I know, which, that kind of gave him a huge advantage by me telling mine out loud.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's fine because it's going to be more.
It's a lot of points, my guy.
Well,
Well, the way both teams played in the semifinal, if that's anything what we're going to see, it's going to be a high-scoring
I'm just
game.
on my defense. I really didn't have any prep for this. I didn't know we were going to do the
it's not
the
that
total.
hard, Shane.
I didn't have prep for it either.
I could ask Jacob right now what he thought the total would be. He'd give me an answer.
He
in
just
15
heard
seconds.
everything.
He
Less
would
than.
He
he'd
just
give me an
heard
answer in 15
He
seconds.
just heard everything.
Jacob, if you had a score, what is it?
Total number of points.
Georgia TCU.
$72.
67.
It
See?
took
less
it
than
took him 10 seconds.
Less than 10 seconds. That's how it's done.
Yeah.
You know what? I gave Shane an advantage because I do know a little bit more about college football than he does, but obviously not because we tied. So who knows if I am just tooting my own horn for the wrong reason,
Yeah, probably.
or if I actually do know a little bit of something or two. Who are you playing here before we go? Are you going to play Georgia? Like, is that at the end? Like, are you going to play Georgia by the
I don't
spread?
know.
Or are you going to take TCU?
I'll tell you in about 4 days.
Because if I took anybody right now, it would be TCU with how big that point spread is. But I think it's going to get tighter than it is right now.
Yeah, I'm leaning Georgia right now.
Okay, there you have it.
Yeah.
We are bouncing off a morning dump. We'll be back tomorrow, Coffee and Cream. And hey, good news. Omaha, now we are officially underway at 590, or so I'm told. we hope that's at least the case if you're listening to Morning Dump. But we'll be on 590 tomorrow. We'll still be on 1480 in Lincoln as well, and wherever you catch us live, whether that's YouTube, whether that's on Twitter. And if you miss anything, go to the podcast at Hail Varsity Radios, where you can catch all Coffee and Cream work. And then you can also go to Hurrdat Sports and find Morning Dump and Benning Bites as well. And DB gives his nuggets, his morsels, as I like the word he uses there. I've never used morsel in a sentence until now, so I'm happy I finally got to do it.
That's a smidge more than a crumble.
He's Damon Benning at Damon Benning on Twitter. I'm Andrew Rogers at Andrew Rogers TV. Shane Schillerberg over on the board. Thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow.